if you see the Java docs, this is what exception. It is the parent class of all the exceptions. Okay, before this also throwable is there. If you can see java.lang.throwable. So basically throwable is a superclass of all the exceptions plus errors. Okay, there are two types of classes in Java. Exceptions are there, errors are there. So exceptions are something which we can deal, we can handle. But errors are something we cannot do anything. Like virtual memory error or stack overflow error. So in that scenario your program will crash no matter what. But exception are something which we can deal. So suppose if you are getting an exception at 10th line, you can handle the exception, and rest of, let's say you have 1,000-line code, so rest of 990 lines will run properly. Otherwise, what will happen if you are getting the exception, let's say at 10th line, then your code will break there itself and it will not go ahead. So now if you see all these subclasses, they are actually child of exception classes. Okay, so these are direct known subclasses. So whatever exception you deal in Java, it is actually child class of this class exception, and there also there is a super class for this which is throwable. So you need to understand properly the API in Java to understand the exceptions. And if you see here, okay, this is a throwable class. Okay, and there is an error class as well. Okay, where is the error class? See here, errors. There is a separate section only. Okay, so you have a lot of errors like abstract method error, assertion error, bootstrap method error, and one of the most famous one, stack overflow error, out of memory error, stack overflow, thread death. Okay, so all these errors are also there. So throwable is like a superclass of exception plus errors. Okay, errors you cannot do anything, but exceptions you can handle. So the superclass of all the exception is basically exception class. Now in exception also we have two types of exceptions. One is checked exception, another is unchecked exception. Now checked exceptions are something which we can check at compile time. Okay, these are like file not found exception or SQL exception, IO exception. You can see here IO exception, okay, SQL exception. So these are kind of checked exceptions which we can check at the compile time. But there are certain exceptions which will occur only at runtime because there is no syntactical mistake for them. Okay, there are some logical errors because of which at the runtime you will get some runtime exceptions. Okay, so here you will see one class which is runtime exception. Where it is? Runtime exception. Can you see? Now runtime exception, if you will open, there are so many subclasses for this exception. Okay, so whatever subclasses are there for runtime exception, they are known as runtime exception, and that you will have to handle, otherwise they will break your code. So mainly what we handle is we handle runtime exception. Compile time exceptions we can just throw. Okay, that also we handle, but runtime exception is something which we actually handle logically. So now in runtime exception also the most important one, arithmetic exception. And where is that coder's favorite? Yes, there you go, null pointer exception. Very, very, very famous. Okay, and it creates a lot of trouble. And index out of bounds exception, it occurs when you are not passing the proper values to the index. And class cast exception also should be there somewhere. because these are all runtime exceptions. Okay, class cast will also come at runtime. Security exception, system exception, and but buffer underflow exception, this is also very very important. Buffer overflow exception, when you are overflowing something. Where is class cast? Yes, there you go. Class cast exception. If you are not doing the typecasting properly between classes, parent class, child class, upcasting, downcasting, if you are not doing it properly, you will get class cast exception. So this is what about exceptions.